play caller to play designer, offensive coordinator for the Rams, greatest show on turf. That won a Super Bowl and then became the head coach later on. And I think won 2 division titles in 5 years and had a 14-2 team as the head coach. One of my favorite coaches of all time. Our main man, Coach Mike Martz. Coach,
hey,
how you doing, brother?
Doing good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. Man, I haven't seen you in a while, man. I think the Glazer Clinic was the last time we chopped it up in Anaheim or Costa Mesa, whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been bad, man. The Glazer fell off bad.
Yeah.
It's been bad. Welcome in California JUCO guy. A lot of people don't know. San Diego Mesa. I'm a California JUCO guy, and a lot of guys don't realize how many greats came from the JUCO level. John Madden, yourself, so many, from Warren Moon to Aaron Rodgers. So a lot of people we have on the show. Appreciate you hopping in here for a few minutes, Coach. What you doing now? What's going on nowadays?
I'm retired. I do a little bit of media stuff, not much. I was working for the 33rd team. I don't do much for them anymore, which is a website. I do a little consulting here and there, but just enough to kind of keep me involved a little bit, not much. And then we've got our grandkids. Kids had grandkids late in life, so they're all little, so they keep us busy.
No doubt. Noel Mazzoni, Coach Noel Mazzoni comes on quite often with us, and he said tell you hello, man, and can't wait to get into this, man. I want to ask you some stuff real quick on just your thoughts, man. I know you're a QB, whatever you want to call him, whisperer, guru. We want to go down the line, but in this QB world that we live in now, I've been saying for me, it's been watered down as hell. I'm not a big fan of the development that's lacking, I guess. Are you seeing the same thing? Are you seeing similar, we're just going instant gratification on this thing as far as not teaching the true fundamentals, and we're just trying to get this money, and we lack so much when we get to the NFL, if they do get to the NFL, where we're just like, Jesus Christ, we can't even ID the mic and re-ID the front, and these QBs seem to just call the play with a signal and go. Is that not true?
It's been that way for a while now. It's probably the worst coached position in all of professional sports.
No doubt.
And then so many of these quarterbacks in the offseason, they don't have anybody on the staff that can help them with their fundamentals, their footwork, their balance. They don't have anybody to take them out there like we used to do. Of course, you can't do that nowadays because of the collective bargaining agreement, but we're on the field March, April, May doing footwork and making throws and all that stuff they don't do anymore, and a lot of these young guys coaching them, they have no background in it. They don't know. I was raised as a teacher as you were, and, from the lesson plan and what to get covered to, how to resolve an issue that mechanically they're having before you even get the idea in the mic and all that other stuff, and what to do with your eyes before the snap, on the snap, what are you looking at? All the little details of playing the game have been lost to some extent, or they just don't know it. And, with 35 coaches or what do they have on the staff nowadays, you'd think they'd have somebody would do that stuff.
Coach, Big Smitty, Darnell here works at Fox, and he's around a lot of guys there. He works with Keyshawn and a lot of guys that are around the game. And we've been talking about all this stuff. Like, we got coaches hiring their buddies that played tight end and stuff like that, you play tight end, and people don't realize you had to come up understanding, okay, this is what it takes to get the wideouts to football, get the running back the ball in protection, how to incorporate the protection with the back and all. I don't think people are understanding the differences now. I think we're just hiring a coach that never called it or been around QB play or understanding anything, and we're making him the quarterback coach. And case in point, Lamar in Baltimore, they hired T. Martin 2 years ago, finally. He was coaching wideouts. They had a guy coaching Lamar that never played the position or knew about QB play. And now you got T. Martin in there, and now Lamar's gotten an MVP and possibly could have had 2. So, your point meaning, we got guys, it's any slapdick just coaching our QBs.
Well, the intimate details of how to play that position, they just don't know. It took me when I first came in the league, I coached every position in the National Football League before I became a coordinator. Offensive line, tight ends, quarterbacks, all of them. And you have to learn football at this level. The first 5 years, I wasn't my job, but I volunteered to do it. I took off all the stuff for the computer breakdowns for the opponent so I could learn. And so I spent 5 years before I felt like I kind of understood a little bit about what was going on out there.
Right.
These guys, they skipped all those steps, they're growing through it and learning it. Like I said, on an intimate level, the footwork, what do you do with your eyes? The first thing we do with quarterbacks, and JB, this, is before we even take the field, we'll spend weeks in the classroom teaching them defense.
Hell
How
yeah.
you teach an offense unless they know what you're talking about and how it applies to these guys? There's 32 teams in the league, and there's 32 different ways of running cover three.
Right.
And so you
Right.
got to, as a quarterback, know that about this team. They're spot droppers, or they work past the numbers, or all those little things that happen. They're full back pedal, the shuffle, turn, all those things that you need to know before you play them, and a lot of that information is just not there.
Coach, go ahead, Smitty.
Yeah, I got a quick follow-up, Coach. At what point do you think you start to see this shift as far as coaches is not coaching at the same level? Is there a year that comes to mind, a certain moment where you just start to slowly see that shift?
Yeah, I think it was probably right about when the collective bargaining agreement changed, because now that off-season on-field stuff you didn't have anymore, and so you're hiring guys that didn't know it anyway, so it wouldn't make any difference, right? So, and then this fad about getting younger, always, the owners do. They're looking for the Shaun McVay guy. They're always looking for that guy, and they just throw them away if they aren't. So that kind of throwaway coach mentality, hiring all these young guys, and maybe you'll hit on somebody, has killed it, because these guys, they just don't know. Now, Shaun knew. I mean, he's a young guy, came in, and he got it. He understood it. But he's a rarity, and so the movement, this youth movement with no background, has killed it.
No question. I agree too. Smitty and I argue about it all the time. We talk about you mentioned all these defensive, what we call you, what we classify you as. Like we used to go in and teach the QB, like you said, for weeks and weeks and weeks. Who is the edge of the defense? What does that even mean? Who's the anchor of the defense? Who has BCCCR, boot count, quarterback reverse? Who's responsible for that? The QBs now don't have a clue what the fuck we're even talking about. I said, hey, who's the flat player in this coverage? They don't know if it's the corner coach. They don't know if it's a fucking invert. They don't know if it's the Sam backer. They have no clue based on just who's high on the roof and who's not. I don't know, man. It's funny. Like, we teach little terms. You and I always had buzzwords to teach our defensive terminology to our QBs. I've been in coaching offices where that's not even being discussed whatsoever.
I got to tell you, I did over the years, I've done a lot of consulting in college and in the NFL, and I've been in all these quarterback meetings, and I'll be honest with you, other than one place, I walked out there, I didn't know where the quarterback was supposed to throw the ball. I don't know what he's supposed to do. And what do you teach? They're like video game coaches. They just teach them plays, and you could throw it over here, you could throw it over there. What does that mean? How are you helping a guy there? The one thing with a quarterback, and this, JB, is when they take the field, it's our responsibility to make sure that they have an answer for everything they could possibly see on every play. Who's the side adjust guy? How about the protection? Who's coming free? What do you do with the ball? All right, you're going to go 1-2 here. Where's your check down? And just the structure of that play, what you're trying to do, all those things, they just don't know it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Smitty, I don't know,
It sounds like you two are agreeing on a lot. So I'm going to just ask you straight up, Coach. So JV always says that this is the worst QB play he's ever seen. Do you agree with that?
I think from a technical standpoint, they get away with it because they're so bad on defense.
Oh.
So there's, because they're running plays as fast. What's his name from Oregon brought that in? Everybody's running plays as fast as they can out of the no huddle stuff. Guys they just get lined up. I mean, they just run a coverage or a front. There's no.
There is none.
The details of defense. I'm more appalled at defense than I am anything else. There's so much bad defense out there that guys just don't know. The corner play's horrendous. Horrendous. They let them tackle him now downfield and grab him. Well, and then I hear these dumb announcers, guys that should know better. Oh, well, it's equal. They have hand fighting. No, it's not hand fighting. I had a guy, Dre Bly, who's probably as good a cover guy as I've been around, and he used to do it in practice, and I used to get so upset with him. I said, Dre, why would you practice that way? I said, you got to cover them with your feet. You got great feet. Cover them with your feet. You just these shortcuts that they just don't go. You get called on this stuff. Well, then they allow it to happen. So it's just that whole part of the game is just kind of, when I was on the competition committee, we didn't let them get away with that. That part of the game was clean. There's a little bumping and all that, but you could not, that collisions in the hand and the grabbing. I had Mike Pereira tell me one time, Isaac Bruce ran a dig and the guy grabbed his jersey coming out of it. And I said, why wasn't that called, Mike? And he says, well, I don't think he inhibited him enough. Well, so that's not the judgment. That's not the call.
Right.
He grabbed his jersey. How do you know that didn't make a difference of this much and he couldn't get to the ball? It's not a judgment call. Either he did or he didn't, so that's what we were fighting on the committee for so many years, that
no doubt
interpretation stuff that Mike had brought in here, where we finally got that away. And now it's kind of going back to that.
Yeah, 100%. The rules have changed so much. They've made it so soft. You got to lay the quarterback down, and you can't take a chin shot no more. Like it's just so crazy. And then the wideouts don't have no fear from a safety hitting them and putting his dick in the dirt. Like they're going to get a penalty anyway. So it's just become so almost flag football. Let me ask you, Coach. You had Marc Bulger, who looked like Kurt Warner out there, and everyone at this. Like if you thought about that now. And I don't know, a lot of these youngsters watching the show right now, they don't realize, like, you took Marc Bulger, made him really, really good. He was already a talent. He had a quick release, similar to what you wanted in your system, similar to Trent, similar to Kurt. Could Marc Bulger dominate right now?
Oh, absolutely. You watch some of the throws. I just looked at this morning. I was going through some cups. I'm going to do a little consulting with a guy coming here in the next few days, but the throws that he made, the ball comes out so fast they can't break on it. And his pinpoint accuracy on firm throws was ridiculous. Now, Kurt had a great touch on the deep ball. It's like Kurt didn't have Mark's arm strength, but Kurt had great anticipations and he's incredibly courageous. But Marc, my gosh, his first pass in a game against the Raiders, I can tell you what it was. He came back up a hard play action. We max protect. We moved Isaac in. He ran a 20-yard out, and he was double covered. And he had about a window like this to hit it, and he hit it. And he hit it against the Raiders. And, he's fearless as a thrower, which would you like to have. You don't want to – you can back a guy off, but you can't make him courageous, And,
no doubt.
And yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he would – they couldn't – first of all, the defense is playing today, I think he might get bored completing the ball.
I'm telling you, man, I don't think these youngsters understand the difference in the game, man. I got a couple of questions now. I want to hold you, and I know Smitty got some questions for you real quick. Kurt Warner, you take that team over, or you're the OC, and Kurt comes in, and the movie just depicts it away, I know. But let me ask you, if Trent Green doesn't get hurt, does Kurt ever become Kurt?
I think he probably would eventually, because that's just kind of who he is. I think the opportunity that came up for him was terrific, and he responded so well to it. But I think and Kurt will tell you this too, Trent Green, we still win a Super Bowl with Trent because we're just a great football team, and Trent's a really good player. So, and again, Kurt will tell you that. But I think Kurt, an opportunity would eventually arise for Kurt as well, and then he would take full advantage of it. Now, we were just it was a special place in time. We had all these great things come together at the same moment, with Marshall, and we draft Torrey, and Isaac had something to prove, and Orlando's there, and the defense. There's just so many great things going on there that you can't duplicate that, but he'd still have a terrific he proved it down at Arizona. So
then you get a speedster like Azakim, an LA kid here that I got to be around. And you get him and add him to the punch with the tight end and the tight ends you used and all the move stuff. Like, I used to be a super studious studier of everything you did. And I was running similar stuff. And it's just, I think you were ahead of the game. And I don't think people realize how good Trent Green was. And I think he's still calling games in Kansas City. I know. Yeah. Good deal.
You talking about Azakim. Even I didn't realize, looking back at some of the plays, he probably made more big plays for us than anybody on the team, actually. His first amount of time that he played, even. I'll never forget, my first year as head coach here in 2000, we're playing Atlanta. Our kicker, goes down. Jeff goes down with on the opening kickoff, and they return it for a touchdown. We get the neck kickoff, and we return it for a touchdown. Never been done before.
Damn.
We don't have a field goal kicker or extra point guy. So it's right before half, and it's 4th and 29. Well, what do you throw? We ran verticals. So he comes back, and Kurt fits it right in the window. Oz makes 3 or 4 guys miss and walks in the end zone with it. I mean, who does that?
I remember. Man, I got so many damn questions, but
nah, that's all good. Let me ask you about the greatest show on turf. What's your favorite memory just from being a part of that team? Not being a part of it, being a huge part and reason that the team had that success. Is there like any big memory that just stands out?
Yeah, there's one. My favorite memory is going in and with the offense and putting the game plan in with everybody on Wednesday mornings. They were always they couldn't wait. They're just like holding a bunch of horses back. They just couldn't wait. In the practices during the week, Isaac told me the other day, he said, Coach, practices were harder than the games. The games were actually easier. And that was by design. The running part of it, we tried to play a game every day. We practiced, and just going through that process was so much fun with those personalities and their enthusiasm for playing the game and how hungry they were to win and get the ball and be a part of it, So I'm going in there, you could tell if somebody thought that they weren't getting the ball enough that week, that you could see in the meeting their head drop down like that. So I had to do a little father son afterwards, and say, no, you'll be fine. We'll get the ball,
No doubt. How good was? I think Torrey Holt's one of the most underrated wideouts in the history as far as catching the ball with his hands, not letting the ball cross his face, like just hand-eye. I don't know how many are better. And I know Isaac with the route runner, local JUCO guy as well. I know Memphis, but he played here at Santa Monica. Where are you at with Torrey's, like, is he going to have a gold jacket? Is he going to be a guy that deserves it? I think he's super underrated.
That's to me the biggest injustice in all professional sports, that he doesn't have a jacket right now. His numbers are just ridiculous. He's second only to Jerry Rice in the fact that he was the quickest guy at 10,000 yards receiving. Nobody ever has gone 6 seasons in a row with 1,300 yards or more. Nobody's ever done it. Jerry Rice didn't do it. I mean, he's got so many numbers that say, well, he's obviously should be in the Hall of Fame. But the top 3 guys that do this now, they're dead set. And then one of them said this in a meeting, and it got out that there's enough Ram players from that team. We don't need anymore.
Wow,
that
makes no sense. I mean,
if you're great, you're great. It doesn't matter what situation is.
Right. So he'll get in, I think, eventually, but it's just painful to sit there. I feel so bad for him because he's so deserving.
So you got Marshall, Orlando, Isaac, Kurt.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Holt
needs to be
on. And Aeneas Williams, of course, was a corner.
Aeneas Williams, that's right. Aeneas. Gosh, dang, that was unbelievable. Talent. I don't know. Smitty?
That's wild.
Hey, Coach, let me ask you something. Arizona State, is that where you cut your teeth as far as getting your getting going as far as installation goes? Like you said, installing the plays, a lot of these fans don't understand. That was our favorite part of the thing. Either was a walkthrough, teaching the teachable moments. Arizona State, you get your OC job, you're getting it going there. Was that you missed a college game before going back to the league?
Not really. The league was just all football. No recruiting.
Yeah,
I don't mind the recruiting, but it's just intensity and the complexity of the NFL is so different. I just really enjoyed it. Arizona State, before all that though, JB, and when I first started in Mesa College in 1976. Lenny Smorn was the head coach. He just gotten a job, and he called me. I was at San Jose State at the time. He said, "Come on down, put the offense in. I just have 2 things I want you to do." I said, "Oh, all right. What are they?" He said, "I want you to run 4 wide receivers, and I want you to throw the heck out of the ball." Well, this is 76. Now everybody's in I formation back then. If you go to a slot or split back, you're really, that's pretty liberal.
You live life on edge.
Receivers, nobody was doing nickel. I mean, nobody. Come on. 4 receivers? That was ridiculous. So we went with 4 receivers, and we just kind of made it up as we went. And again, we had Steve Fairchild and Melvin was our All-American tailback, All-American wide receivers and quarterback, and they just burned it up, And so that gave me – nobody knew what we were doing. Nobody had ever done it before. So when I went to the Rams and had that opportunity again, I reflected back on it. I just said – even though it's contrary to what's being done in the league, because this is what you do in the league offensively in those days. Everybody kind of ran the same stuff more or less.
Yeah.
So we weren't going to do that. We took third down stuff and threw it on first down, those kinds of things, and just let it ride. And I don't think I would have done that or been in that situation had I not gone through what I went through at Mesa College way back when.
Wow, that's crazy. Like 10 personnel was never thought of. I know everyone was like, oh, and then as it gets, I guess as you've grown, all the shifts, motions, all that stuff. Was the 4 verts predicated from Mesa? Did you build the 4 verts and all option off of that stuff?
What we did at Mesa, the 4 wide receivers, the wing back, we'll play with 2 wing backs all the time. It's like Deuce said almost. We'd arc release them and run the outside veer. We led the nation in rushing on 4 wide receivers, if you can believe it. It was stupid. And people, they didn't know, because we would release them and throw a pop pass to them. So you either got to cover them or you got to stop the run. They didn't really. And then you throw hitch. We'd take a guy, get a hitch and run 50 yards with it. It just, guys didn't know how to line up against it. They didn't know what to take away. And so, we were just, like I said, we just looked at it and made it up. And the quarterback was so good with it.
It's so crazy.
I try to tell people. No, I'm telling you, Smitty. I'm trying to tell people understand. People think the RPO and all this shit was just invented. Like that's really literally RPO is what he's talking about. It's double and triple option based off of a couple reads in 76.
Right.
For sure. In our Super Bowl against the Patriots, we had 9 RPOs called. I think 4 of them got thrown. But people didn't know what that was. We call them run side adjustments is what we called them. Like you have the pass sites, versus blitz.
Yep.
So we
like a run solution, right? Like a run solution.
Yeah, because we didn't check plays. We weren't checking in on plays. I'd never want to sit at the line of scrimmage. I coached the offensive line when I first went to the Rams. And the thing that used to just irritate the heck out of me was have the offensive linemen sit there, listen for what the play is, and then they got to redo all that and just come on
block.
up.
Yeah.
And go. And then the movement and shifting came from Norv Turner. When I was at Washington, we were 0-7 going into a bye week. He said, we got to do something different, guys. We came back out, and we with just Joe Gibbs, we started moving guys around a little bit. The first time we did, we threw the ball to the fullback in the flat, and he went 60 yards for a touchdown. And we kind of looked at each other. Maybe we ought to do more of this, So we ended up winning, I think, 6 of the last 9, and really could have been won 8 of them. But anyway, we played really well, and that's when Trent Green started.
Wow.
So he knew all the motion and shifting, and the fact that you could line up and go quickly with it, and this guy's on the other side of the ball are pointing and talking and shifting, and their defensive linemen around, and the zone dog stuff was big in those days.
Yeah,
the heyday of it. So when you start changing strength of formation twice, who's the popper, and who isn't? So they get that screwed up all the time. If you look at our Tennessee Super Bowl, we throw a ball to Marshall out of the backfield on a wheel route, and it was after a shift, and they just dropped him. He ran 50 yards with it, and that's why we do it. That was the purpose behind it. Norv just didn't feel they could get lined up, and that's what we did, and it got its root right there, and we just took it another step when I went to St. Louis.
That's amazing, man. I never coached. I played college ball, and for me, I always thought it was fascinating of just how our coaches, or how coaches in general, was able to come up with the scheme, and how do we know that these 10 plays are the first 10 plays we should go out on the field with, and just hearing you kind of break down just the process of what went through your head, and sounds like a lot of it was like trial and error and just kind of trying things out.
Well, and seeing. You're right. Some of it was trial and error, but we did that in practice. But the big deal is, remember, I said that my first 5 years in the league, I just broke down tape. So I understood defense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I understood the quarter, half. I was talking with a guy on a program here last year, and he was talking about this quarter, half as being a genius defense of recent development. The first game that I ever coached at Mesa College in 1974 was against a quarter, half. I mean, this is nothing new. So you understand if number 2 goes to the flat against a quarter safety, well, the safety's going to turn and look up number 1. So you can start to learn that and manipulate defenses, and get the matchups. It's all about matchups. The NFL is all about matchups in the passing game. And
no doubt, Coach. I got to ask you. I can't thank you enough. I don't want to hold you too long. Let me ask you. You mentioned earlier, and I've been watching these college games. These coaches getting big dollars now to coach college, and then the NIL and all this shit that's happening. But the coaches, though, are like, to me, just taking it for granted, and I guess, and so to speak, because, like you said, there's no more like, let's run this to the 3, let's run this to the shade. There is no more high technique, low technique run game as you and I would try to dictate either by formation or what have you. You said you shifted twice. They lost you, but they probably didn't move the 3 technique either to the strength of the back, whatever. Today we're running fucking plays. I've never seen nothing like it. We're just rapid fire, 13 seconds, trying to get a snap off. There's no rhyme or reason, as to your point earlier. Like, we're running shit just to run it, and I don't know how. I've never seen the kids being felled at a bigger level. Like, we're felling them.
The reason, though, is the owners don't care, because it doesn't change the image of the league of being fun and people watching it. So the quality of it, because if they were concerned about the quality, they would have never given up the collective bargaining agreement where you have players in the offseason, No look how much you're paying them, and they're half a year there. So and it's their craft. You give them a chance to stay in the league longer, learn it better, all that stuff. So, the game is exciting to them, but you and I as coaches know what's going on, but they don't really care because it's fun to watch for them, and they're making money on it. So they're not going to fool. They're not going to change it. They just hire another coach who doesn't know anything.
The young guys, the McDaniels and these guys walking with the skinny jeans, walking around that smoking vapes and all this. It's a joke, man. It's coach it or allow it, is what we used to say, Smitty. Coach it or allow it.
But there are some young coaches as well, though, that are doing it the right way, like we said. So it's not just it's a balance. It's not.
Chicago's got one that I think is
Ben Johnson
up the heap. Yeah, when I watched him coach and I watched their offense, that's what I hope that we look like. You know what I mean? Yeah. The best compliment I give him is I really admired how well coached the offensive line was. The running backs, what they're looking at, they were hitting it. There was no tap dancing, jumping around. They were hitting and splitting it. And that whole team was so well coached. As credit to Danny, but offensively, and to say that he's a coordinator, well, he doesn't affect the offensive line. Baloney.
Shit.
He oversees all that, so it's his job to make sure that all those things are done on a detailed basis. That, to me, was a role model for the rest of the league on how offense should be coached or taught.
Have you got to sit down with him?
No, I met him down in Miami and was down there helping with the quarterbacks. I went down there to do a little consulting down there, and the thing that impressed me about him, JB, was he wouldn't leave me alone. He kept asking me these questions about these couple of these plays that we had to Rams. Well, wait a minute, so what do you tell the quarterback here? That kind of thing. And he's the only guy that had so much passion or intensity that usually guys fit. Yeah, I got it. No, that's right. I got it. I know what you were doing. I figured it out.
Yeah.
He wouldn't like that. He wanted to know how many steps and how come it's 5. All that kind of stuff. So
let me ask you this again, Coach. Like, obviously, we'll see here in a few months. But do you think he has the ability to kind of turn Caleb Williams around in year 2 and kind of get that offense rolling in Chicago?
Well, I think Chicago finally got it right at quarterback. Throughout the franchise, I think they finally picked a guy that's worthy and can be a great franchise quarterback. Now, McMahon was a good player, but he wasn't a great player. And I think Williams has got a chance of being that way, and they got the right guy. Remember, the head coach is a taskmaster. He's going to make sure that the details of the game are executed, particularly at that position. And there's no freelancing. They're going to protect him. Look at the moves they did already. What they signed three offensive linemen in the offseason. When you build a team, you start in the offensive line. People think it's you get a quarterback, you get this. No, a good offensive line allows you to run or throw it, whatever you want to do, and keeps the defense off the field. That's where everything is based. And he gets that. He understands that, and they're building it right.
I'm with you. I think Caleb has a chance to be good, especially with Ben Johnson. But go ahead,
absolutely.
JB.
I don't.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing, Mike. Let me ask you, Coach, real quick. I mess with Smitty all the time with Caleb Williams. Deal. You would rip his ass if he paid him.
JB doesn't like him. He doesn't believe him at all. He doesn't believe him at all.
Caleb Williams.
Yeah, Caleb.
I mean, I agree with Coach. Uber talented, no skill set wise off the charts, but like, can he do it? That's all.
Well, here's the thing with Gallen. He can see and react quickly. He can digest things quickly and respond to it. You don't know what he's been told. He's been allowed to ad lib too much, and I tell you, that head coach isn't going to put up with that at all. He's going to yank a knot in his rear end in 2 seconds if that happens. So the discipline of playing that position is what he's going to learn. And he's so talented that with that discipline, I think he could become just exceptional.
Let me ask you, the only reason I asked you if you talked to Ben Johnson is because of the fact that you go from play caller, coordinator to head coach, and you still have a hell of a run in the Rams as the head coach. And I was wondering if that's why Ben was so involved in asking you those things, because obviously we knew he was going to be a head coach eventually. Do you see him kind of following your footsteps as going from that transition? And what would you tell him at the transition to expect?
I would tell him find a coordinator to call plays, because after a while it wore me out. I got sick. I couldn't do it, because I was doing personnel as well. So that personnel was the offense. I was quarterback coach, did basically the quarterback stuff. The offense, I ran the offense, and I was the head coach. So I was being pulled in so many different directions. I was exhausted. And I think for the first year or two, that's fine, like Danny did up in Detroit. But try to find yourself somebody that you trust and admire and knows the game as well as you do. And the biggest mistake, I had a very short window to hire Norv Turner, and I didn't do it. And it's the biggest mistake in my coaching career. I don't know whether he'd taken the job, but I should have asked him anyway,
No doubt. I was telling Smitty the same thing. I said, man, I was at the point to let the O go as the head coach, and I regret it to this day. I wish but it's hard. It was harder to find a guy at JUCO, as you know, trying to get a guy to Mesa that's competent enough that can do it, and then the kids still respond to and knows enough up front. It's not easy to find. But real quick, before we get you out of here, Coach, I can't thank you enough. Talk about you going to Detroit after the Rams deal. You go to Detroit as the play caller. And you get them going, and who'd you have there? Kitna?
Yeah, brought John Kitna in. There was nobody there. Joey Harrington was there. I had a bad experience with Joey. Joey and I are probably not going to ever shake hands, but we had a meeting, and after 2 weeks, I had all the quarterbacks in there, and I walked around, picked up their notebooks to look what they'd written down, and after 2 weeks, I looked at his notebook. He didn't have one thing written down. Shit. And so we went on the field to do some field work, and I was putting him through a drill down there. He didn't want to be there. And he kind of half-assed it and kind of lobbed the ball over there. And I just lit in. I had enough of him. I just lit into him as a competitor, as a professional. You're a fraud, And he never came back. He called Matt, our GM called Matt, and he said, my girlfriend's dog died. I got to go home, and we never saw him again. So that was it. So that's what we did. That's what I walked into at Detroit. That was the atmosphere. Wow. We had 3 number 1 receivers, and none of them, Roy was the only one that ended up being decent, and he was a good player for us. But
Roy Williams, yeah.
When I took the job, I took it because Rod Marinelli, I just wanted help. I didn't want to be a head coach. I just wanted to coach the offense at that point for a while. And what Matt told me is that, the offensive line situation get resolved. They had one guy under contract in the offensive line when I went there. It was a nightmare. So we were just picking guys up on the side. You talk about injury IR guys. We must have set a record that year for IRs. I've never seen anything like it. We had a left guard from I think it was Puerto Rico that barely spoke English.
Really?
Oh, I'm telling you. Now he's a nice kid, big kid, and was a decent player, but couldn't communicate. I mean, that's what was happening with us. We just didn't have anybody.
Jesus Christ.
Mike Furry was our free safety when I left the Rams. I made him free safety. He came to us as a wide receiver and led the NFC in receptions and yards.
Damn. Was that right? I forgot about that shit.
Look up Mike Furry. Look at his – I think he had 100 catches for over 1,000 yards. He led the NFC that year in receiving.
Coach, guys weren't ready for your stuff, man. I just missed the old school coaching, man. I missed the actual X's and O's part of it where the players actually wanted to learn it and do it. Nowadays, their dog dies and they fucking go home. It's unbelievable, man.
That's not everybody though. And Coach did say there are still some Ben Johnsons in the game. So let's keep our head up. It's not all going bad, JB.
We hope, Smitty.
But what bothers me is some of these older guys have been journeymen in the league for so long. Once you get to a certain age, they just don't look at them as head coaches. And there's plenty of those guys that should have that opportunity.
No doubt.
Instead, just going for because they're so cheap to hire young guys. You don't really pay them, and then if they hit, you pay them. But they're throwaways.
Yeah, no doubt. It's interesting. I can't wait to see this league, this deal coming up. Before you leave, how high are you on this draft? QB draft, Shador, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, these kids. Are you high on them at all? I'm not, but are you thinking?
I think Cam Ward's got a chance of being pretty good. I don't know that he's the first pick in the draft for me, but I think it's a very mediocre at best class. I think Deion's kid. You can't put the numbers up and do what he did and not have some serious talent. It's just impossible. And he's such a great competitor, but it's a little bit like we're talking about in Chicago. He's going to have to adapt to an offense in the NFL that's very, very, very structured and conservative, and teach him how to play this game. And they just didn't protect him, so he's got all these bad habits that you got to uncoach. Yeah. If he goes to a bad team, it's going to be the same thing. He'll be successful, but he'll get beat up. Hopefully, he'll go to a good enough team where they can build it around him. He's got a chance of being pretty good, I think.
No doubt. Coach, before you leave, we got a question for you. Did you ever believe Al Saunders could have been a head coach in the league? We know how great he was. I got a shot there under Dick as in OTAs as a practice squad guy when he went there early 2000s, and Al was unbelievable. Did you think he was a head coach guy?
Absolutely. Al was a head coach of the Chargers for about a year and a half, I think, down there. He
after Marty, wasn't it?
No, it was
who was that before then?
Who did he replace?
Let me see.
But he was there for about a year and a half, I think, and things just changed. There are a lot of politics in those days, and there are a lot of good coaches that
he replaced Coryell, huh?
It was Coryell. Yes, it was. It was Coryell. You replaced Don Coryell, yes.
86.
So he was on Coryell's staff. That's right. That's why he knows the system so well. That's why when we got together at the Rams, he and I were really good because he understood everything we were doing.
No doubt. Nah, he was unbelievable. Man, Coach, we could do this all day. I can't thank you enough. We got to hook up soon, man. And you out here on the West Coast?
No, I was out there for about 6 weeks trying to get out of the cool weather, but we're back in St. Louis.
Oh, okay. Got you. Man, we'll hook up soon. I can't thank you enough, Coach. Good luck to everything. Hope everything is okay, and I'll hopefully see you soon.